Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Friday, November 15th, 2024. It has been 175 days since we have started reading, with 473 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 155 pages left to go and are 75.32% of the way through Finnegan's Wake. Welcome to episode 31 of Wake, the episode that is all about the crack. And by crack, I mean the Irish crack, although sometimes we might feel as though we're reading while on American crack. Or we fulfill a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake out loud just once. I'm your host, Toby Malone, joined as ever by the man who forms the moral and emotional backbone of this whole operation, TJ Young. Hi,
That's
TJ.
a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight. I am
It's
the moral. Emotional background, sure. Moral, questionable. But I'm doing all right.
We couldn't do it without you. And joining us this week, we couldn't be more excited. We're vibrating with the excitement of it all. We've had a Brit, and we've had a Scot, and we've had an Irish-Canadian immigrant. But for the first time ever on Wake, we welcome our very first genuine and bona fide Dubliner, Sarah Kane. Welcome, Sarah.
Woo! Thanks for
So
having
glad
me.
to have you here. So, welcome to the Wake, and we're really glad to have our first real Irish person on the Wake. And you have a relationship with Joyce. I think you mentioned that you are in a throuple between your partner and James Joyce.
Yeah, it's a funny one. Had a precarious relationship with James Joyce for a number of years, and was always fascinated by him, but could never get to the crux of what he was delivering. He always kind of thought, Jesus, there's big books of shite, and they have people coming to visit and celebrating him, particularly Bloomsday. And I was just fascinated, and why do people come over and visit Dublin? And it's such impenetrable text, and you're kind of thinking, am I really, really dumb that I can't read this? It's just words on pages. And I think it would have been on the eve of Bloomsday in 2016, and I kind of thought, well, I must be mature enough now to approach this. And it was many years and summers listening to the RTE reproduction, the audio kind of play that was done in the 80s. And it still wasn't going in. But there was a lovely gentleman in Dundrum Library, and it's an old Carnegie Hall. It was Thomas Earls Fitzgerald had put a post up on Instagram, and it was inviting people to come and read Ulysses. So there was about 30 people that had signed up for this book club in 2021, and by the time that we had completed it was September to June. There was about 12 of us that were left, and it was predominantly female, but we finished on the eve of Bloomsday, so it was the first time that we got to celebrate it together. We went into Dublin, we done a walking tour with Pat Liddy, who's never completed Ulysses, so it's pure Irish, it's like a lifeguard that can't swim, and brought us around Dublin, and dressed in all the pomp and the ceremony around it. But it felt like you were making your communion again, going into the city and exploring it and having a couple of pints and Davy Burns. And I think we finished up about 2 a.m. and it was, it was a hangover that taken a few days to get over. And then the second time, then we had done Bloomsday. Then this year we stuck to the south of Dublin, out at the Sandy Cove Tower, and that was a completely different experience as well to what goes on in the city. But since then, I think I had a solid 18 attempts before I cracked it, and then when I did, it now feels like, as I messaged yourself, Toby, it's like a Victoria sponge now, and I'm going to the dark side because
You
I'm in
are
this molasses that I can't
that is
seem
the
to
wake.
wade through. But then I don't know. I'm kind of am I under? Listen to Jim Norton's like 5 hour abridged, unabridged, one of the versions, and
Mhm.
anyway, and it's it made complete sense. Like it was playing in the background, and it reminds me of like Anthony Burgess's like A Clockwork Orange, the Nadstats like talk and backslang
Mm.
that you would use in the school, and then the colloquialism, the terms that are really gone out of fashion
Yeah.
here. But you might hear an older generation say you wee crater yet or something, and you're like, where's
Hmm.
that come from? But it's their Babel, it's the language around it that I find fascinating. And I suppose if you're Joyce and you're into him, he doesn't get enough recognition for Finnegan's Wake. That's my
Yeah. Well, I mean, and like we've said in the past, because it's difficult, and because it's so difficult, and because it is that molasses that people quit pretty quickly on it. It's too hard, so they don't want to do it. But the challenge is just figuring out about how you can continue to wade through. It's interesting you talk about Anthony Burgess because he was a great wake scholar,
yeah.
great lover of the wake, and clearly he was influenced when he wrote Clockwork Orange by a lot of this language and a lot of the coinage that Joyce is all about. Yeah, it's really great to get this different perspective. So we connected with you through our Instagram account, and you came on first as a listener, and then you reached out to say that you were enjoying the podcast. So I said, well, we have to have you on to give us that Irish perspective. We both have a bit of Irish. So I'm fairly Irish on both sides. TJ recently did his genealogy
I
through
did.
through Ancestry. And what was your percentage of Irishness in your blood?
It's very small. Hold on, let me pull it up. It is tiny, but Toby was like, and there's the Joyce for you. Oh yeah, because you circled it even.
Yeah, I did.
1%.
Yeah,
Exactly
1%
Well,
Irish.
1%.
that's enough. That's loads.
Exactly.
Is it a quark or close enough?
Might be a cork worth of Irishness,
Yeah.
but TJ comes at this honestly with that Irish perspective.
As honestly as I can. I
Yeah.
don't have the background of understanding how it might sound like something my grandparents might have said, but I will say that I do love Guinness. I do. I'm here for it. So,
Oh,
oh
I know
yeah.
it's like,
There we go. Sarah is
it's like
ready.
Friday and full moon, and
That's right. It is a full moon tonight.
yeah.
So it feels like an appropriate day to be getting into this. So have you ever cracked the wake? You mentioned you own a copy, but you've never cracked the spine. um,
Yeah, I have a few of them knocking around and rents and from the library, but they're always kind of floating around in every secondhand or a bookshop or a charity shop,
I'm
and
sure. Yeah.
like this one's like a 50-year-old copy, and it smells delicious, but no, I'm surprised it hasn't been used as tinder, like set fire or you know. But yeah, I don't know whether you should have an academic approach to it or just go for it.
I think go
Favorite
for it
word
is
like
the way
this
that.
year is
Yeah.
like Rawdogging, making the Collins dictionary of like, what is it? I thought it was like getting a flight with no entertainment. It's like, no, I'm going in for an interview without reading the CV and
Right.
seeing what comes out from it.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we are very much on the zeitgeist then, because we with this whole idea of the cold read, which is we come in completely blind. We've got 20 or so pages ahead of us now, and TJ and I have no idea what we're getting ourselves into.
and
But
I think we have individuals who have been on the podcast who absolutely take that academic approach. And I will tell you, I work in academia, research, I do it all the time. But the second that they start to talk about this book from an academic approach, I'm like, and now my brain is melting out of my ears, and I'm just going to believe you when you say that this is what it is. So,
I think it's kind of trying to hang on to the story as well, and go in a linear sense, but it's treading a pathway between sense and nonsense. And
Yeah.
if you let that go, then you might have a bit of fun with it. But I do think, like, as we know, he was losing his eyesight at this stage when he was writing it. So, and he was supposedly peeling off the chair, laughing, and in a dark room, and shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Like, I don't. So is it like a manifesto where he was just having a laugh with us, or supposedly then his last words on his deathbed does nobody understand?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think, clearly no one understands the way that he understood it. And that must have been a great frustration for him. I know that you've been talking a bit about the way that that Ulysses is perceived in Ireland as this great text to be venerated. But is there any kind of perspective on the Wake, or is the Wake very much a poor cousin in the way that people talk about it there?
I think it was. I mean, if we're looking at Ulysses at the time that when it eventually went into print, and Joyce was expatriate to Ireland, and he had a very, like, did he wage war on religion, or did he wage war on Ireland as well? So how people had accesses to Ulysses as well, and that it was banned. I don't think, in fact, that it was ever banned in Ireland. It was banned in the UK, and we just weren't interested. But now there's some sort of a revival. We can, we have the internet in our hands, on our phones. We can access, like, microcosms of, like, what exactly is this to me. It, like, means, and then it's a matrix. But there's reading groups that are dotted throughout the city, particularly like Sweny's Pharmacy. They do readings on a Thursday of Ulysses in all languages, and our lovely PJ as well, who's a character that we need to preserve in Dublin. He's a polyglot, and he's reading it in Russian and Greek, and there's Italian nights. But the Wake comes in on a Thursday. There's a very small group there, but supposedly in the south of Dublin, in Glasstool, there's a bar called Fitzgerald's, and Tuesday at 10 a.m. there's a group of 40 people that read the Wake. And then we would laugh at the reading group that was in California that was going 26 years.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a bereavement.
years.
Like, when you finish that, like, how are you? Do you think you've retained any of the story, or is it just the relationships that you've built with people? And
we've been going 175 days, and I'm not sure I retain what we're doing. I think
I can tell
spending
you
all that
four
time.
things that have happened.
But we get the grand sweep of it all. So I think that's the perspective. So I'm looking forward to hearing it spoken today in the accent it's intended for. I think every now and then we
let's
end up
butcher it.
we drift into Irish every now and then, but we're determined not to just put on a comedy Irish accent just to speak it.
Oh no, I probably will. Yeah, look, I don't come with subtitles. We'll just go.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. So let's get into the reading. As always, we're reading from the Penguin Modern Classics edition of Pink Finnegan's Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. Today we'll be reading the first part of chapter 3.3 from pages 474 to 496 in this edition. This is a segment with the intriguing and detailed title of Yawn, an inquiry run as a seance by Senators 4 into the various events so far narrated, especially with Humphrey out of Book 1, chapters 2 to 4. Sean, now Yawn, is the star witness, ventriloquizing or channeling the characters who appear one by one, with HCE as a philanthropic urban planner dominating the last 20 pages. That's the whole description, as made by the Oxford World's Classic edition of 2012, which also includes brief summaries of what's happening in each subsection, which we'll address at the end of the reading. And now, without further ado, Finnegan's Wake. Lowly, longly, a wail went forth. Pure Yawn lay low. On the mead of the hillock lay, heart-soul dormant, mid-shadowed land-shape, brief wallet to his side, an arm loose, by his staff of citron briar, tradition's stick-pass on. His dream monologue was over, of course, but his drama parapolylogic had yet to be a fact. Most distressfully, but my dear, how successfully, to wail he did, his locks of a Lucan tinge, quick-rich, ripely rippling, unfilleted, those lash-betasseled lids on the verge of closing time, whiles ooze of his sidewise open mouth the breath of him, even so languishing as the princeliest treble, treacle, or lychee chew-chow purse could buy. Yawn in a semi-swoon lay a wailing, and whew, what helpings of honeyful swoot-head, phew, which ear-piercing dulcitude! As were you supposed to go and push with your blunt blank pin in hand up into his flesh-as-plush cushionettes of some chubby boy-bold love of an angel. Wha! When, as the buzzer brings the light brigade, keeping the home fires burning, so on the Turing cool themselves came at him, from the west borders of the East Midlands, 3 kings of 3 suits and a crowner, from all their cardinal parts, along the amber way where Brosna's furzy. To lift them they did, senators 4, by the first quaint skreek of the cloming, and they hopped it up the mountainy molehill, traversing climbs of old times gone by, of the days not worth remembering. Inventing some excuse-thems, any thought, having a 7-ply sweat of night blues moist upon them. Fifi, fofo, frucha, agala, jishi, palula, oridinimini. Afeard themselves were to wonder at the class of a crossroads puzzler, he would likely be, length by breadth nonplussing his thickness, ells upon ells of him, making so many square yards of him, one half of him in Con's half, but the whole of him nevertheless in Owen Moore's 5 quarters. There would he lay till they would him descry, spancelled down upon a blossomy bed, at one foul stretch amongst the daffy-down dillies, the flowers of narcosis forfettering his footlights, a halo hedge of wild spuds hovering over him, epicures waltzing with garden fillers, Puritan shoots advancing to Arran chiefs. Fo-fo! The meteor pulp of him, the seamless rainbow peel. Agala! His belly voiled of nebulose with his never-stopped navel. Palula! And his veins shooting melanite phosphor, his cream-to-custard comet's hair, and his asteroid knuckles, ribs, and members. Oridimini! His electro-latiginous twisted entrails belt.
Those 4 claiming clomb together to hold their sworn starn chamber query on him, for he was ever there quarrelled away they would see themselves, every bug in their bodiment atop of any woman or notion, and the meat of their knot was worth 2 of the morning. Up to the Escaridge it was Mullingar parish, to the mead that was not far, the sun's rest. First clettered Shanator, Gregory, seeking spirit through the deep time field, Shanator lines trailing the wavy line of his partition footsteps. Something in his blisters was telling him all along how he had been in that place one time. Then his recordership, Dr. Shanator Tarpey, caper chasing after their honourable sleep, hot on the aniseed and up of his prompt corner, old Shunny MacDougall, the hiker in the rear of them on the run to make a quorum. Roping their ass he was, their sky-grey globe-trotter by a way of afterthought, and by no means legless either, for such sprouts on him they were that much uneven it was tumbling by he was 4 lengths, within the ball of a mascot. Cuss clay, patsy-watsy, like the caper and the cabases, and big ass to hear his unaided ears, the harp in the air, the bugle, Diana blowing wild as wild, the mockingbird whose word is misfortune, 'tis said, the bulbul down the wind. The proter was trapezing through the tangle then, Matthew Walker, Godstafar, deputies and the gosperaccuracy, and his station was a few perch at the weather side of the knoll, a snock, and it was from no other place unless there, howsoever, and he prox tended aloof upon the ether, mismer's manum, the hand-making silence. The book was beyond on the lee. They stopped wheresoever they found their standings, and that way they was set ward about him, doing obedience, nod, bend, bow, and courtesy like the watchers of the prospect, upholding their broad awake probers' hats on their firm heads and travelling court on its finding, circuiting the personer in his falling, and a quack are stenographers they made of themselves, saloons and psychomurrers, all told with their hurts and damons, spites and clops, not even in the seclusion of the beast by Them that was the odd trick of the pack, trump a new friend, the carrots. And what do you think? Should he be laying there above all the other persons, foremost them yawn, all of a sprawl? He was laying them amongst the poppies, and I can tell you something more than that, dear writer, profoundly, as you may believe it, he was asleep, as it was far more similar to the rap he lay there with noctus beauty all surrounded it, the poser for what and all, and like Lord Lummen coaching his preferred consolations and faith and doctrine for old Matt Gregory. 'Tis he had the star menagerie, Marcus Lyons and Marcus Metcalfe therapy and the Mac that he never forgave the ass that looked behind him, Johnny and hustling. More than their good share, their five senses and scrollish, you would say themselves were fume and censor, the way they could not rightly tell their heels from their stools, as they couched down the Mamaljew as it was cubicle crib as question time through, nigh in the map of the souls, group parachry rose in relief within their quarterings to play tops or kites or hoops or marbles, churchy gawking on him for the insolence of the numb and the savanizing of them and another the boga quaestors. And it was what they began to say to him, Terradarally, then the master's, what way was he? He was given the wee barnyard in his leader. You're a what, me leader? Wish it to be bushed or what, Alana? Or his winds from a wrong cuts as Ned the hill. Lesson. Why would you so speak up? Do you hear me, sir? Or is he rehearsing someone's funeral? Wished out of that, hovers up. And as they were spreading abroad their octopods, their drifter nets, their crummers, gleamy sheeders nets, and no lie, there was word of assonance being soft spoken among the quartermasters. Get busy, kid. Chirpy come now. The best hopsies is a good time. I'll take on that chap. For it was in the back of their minds' ear, tentative listener, how they would be spreading the quadrilateral azure potted fine attractable nets and the nascent nets from Matt Senior to the turtable Mr. Goo and after him from thence the neighbour and the way that the puzzny donkey man and crucifiers called it. And in their minds years back slibber so it was, slipping beauty how they would have meshed in that way when he rose with the plankton at play about him and quivers of scaly silver and their clutches of chromes and highly lucid Spanish and gold, whilst as an hour gave to her ways an hour, with Jan himself keeping time on his triple tongue and the up on his blorbious lips he would let out classy way, murr of the moor and molten moonest, would you be melding mellifond into his mouth, why before
Just
you
hold,
echo.
we just we just hold up there for a second, Sarah. You've jumped into TJ's section.
Sorry.
I was like, "You're going," and so I'm not going to stop you.
I'm not even going to cut this section. I'm not even going to cut this section out of the edit because I just would need everyone to hear how when you get going, you get going.
I was like, you were in flow state, so I was
it's like red rum.
So yeah, but you've got the brakes marked somewhere. All right, so TJ, pick us up.
Yes. Okay, what's the last line that was read?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't even looking.
After mellifond into his mouth.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Why, before you, echo, how sweet the answers makes, afterwares, in the land of lion's odor? Friends, first in your don't mind, name your historical groans. This same prehistoric burrows 'tis the orgery. I see. Very good now. If it is your orgery, I take it you have your letters. Can you hear me, you sir? Thorough sins for my darling. Typette. So long aforetime? Can you hear better? Millions, for God sends, for my darling dearling one. Now, to come nearer zone, I would like to raise my deuterus point audibly touching this. There is this maggers. I am told by our interpreter, Hannah Ellisis, that there are fully 606 rag words in your malherbal magus land Landergage, in which walled wand rhymes Alpman, and there is resin and all roots for monarch, but Yav had haste, not once pronounceable term that blows in all the volumes of Telegate to signify majestate, even provisionally, nor no rodar, or porpentine path, or hallucination via, nor Aurelian gape, nor sunken rut, nor gross grown trek, nor crime slaved trucksway, or no more hens cry, or mourners plank gang there to lead us to Hopenhaven. Is such the und derivator cast matter, Messior. Frankly, Magus, Magus, Inneriter minus Hawk Intelligo.
How? C'est mal prononçable. Tartagliello per français. Vous n'avez pas d'eau dans votre banche provinciale, monsieur. J'ai m'écline moi j'ai trouvé les clés dans les champs. Hey, Sean, that petty velour, come on. Up there, come on, ça n'a pas de levure. What's tight dans your jambes? Where's that inclining and talking about the Messiah so clover? A truce to your treffling. Where are you? Trinithan Partnick Diodene. Have you seen her? Typet my tactile O. Are you in your fatherick, lonely one? The same, 3 persons. Have you seen my darling only one? I am so ho-hold. What are you shavering about, ultramontane, like a hoon? Is there cold on ye, Dorophopian? Or do you want your prima fairy schoolma'am? The woods of Fogloot, oh Miss Parages. Which the wild greyleg? The duck is rising in your wake that stand of plover. I know that place better than anyone. Sure, I used to be always over there on the 4th day at my grandmother's place, Tien Nanorg, my little grey home in the west, or in or about Mayo when the long dog gave tongue and they coursing the marches when they straining at the leech. Tortoiseshell for a guinea gold. Burb, burb, burb. Follow me up, Turgurg. That's the place for the Clare oysters, Poldoody, County Conway. I never knew how rich I was, like another story in the Zoodone of the Zephyros, strolling, carrying my dragoman, Mead's marvel, thus witham pronounceable tale, along the shore. Do you know my cousin, Mr. Jasper Dougal, that keeps the anchor on the mountain, the parson's son, Jasper of the Tuns, Pat whatever your name is? Dude and I dude. The wolves of Foklut. Why do you call me? Do not fling-a-me-jig to the twelves. Turca fiera, and that's a good wan right enough. Hulavs no less. One moment now, if I foreshorten the bloss on your blether. Encroachment spells erosion. Dunlin and turnstone augurous where, how, and when best as to burial of carcass, fuselage of dump, and committal of nuisance. But since you invocate oysters for the trailing of vixens, I would like to send a cormorant around this blue lagoon. Tell me now this. You told my learned friends rather previously, a moment since, about this mound or barrow. Now I suggest to you that ere there was this plague burrow, as you seem to call it, there was a burial battle, the boat of millions of years. Would you bear me out in that, relatively speaking, with her jackstaff jerking at her penny ladders? Why not, in sizing a fair sail, knowest thou the kind? The pourquoi pas, bound for Weiss du Wassland, that foremaster Barkentine, Webster says, our ship that ne'er returned. The Frenchman, I say, was an orange boat. He is a boat. You see him. The both how you see is they. Draken af Danemark. Sacked it or ate it? What? Henu! Spake ab lout!
Cooch Cortez, ring barrow dung cairn, beseek the ruins and see the long run. All mawn away when you hear the gang horn and meet knots and SSOS. Warm nice. Conning 2 lay pays, nor circa her raven flag was out the slaver. I throw pun good Jordan Scaper, good Barnet and trusty man. Crouch low, you pigeons 3. See, call that girl with the tan tress on. Call wolfhound, wolf of the sea. Folku. Very good now, that's folklore straight from the ass's mouth. I will crusade on that. I will crusade with the parent sheep. Whether profiting from Far away, those green hills of station. Eraton tells me bonafide keel tappers. Now come to the midnight midi on the 11 train Ponateer from Daneland saying the oxy-eyed man. Now mark well what I say. Magnus Spadebeard, Corsets Crosser, Welcher, Prifide, a destroyer in our port, signed to me with his ball and scoop blade, bears breastpaps to give suck to suckle me, Eki Hagios, Christman, oh Jesus fluid, said the poisoned well, foots fishy the fish hooch copper's ankle in the navels, Monarvers. Hep, hello there, Bill of Old Bailey. Who's he? Who's this lad? Why is the pups? Hankelis Childered, Esther held. It's his last chance. Enema, wear him well. Hey, did you dream you were eating your own tripe? Oscar, that you tied yourself with a Rhinecky fix. I see now we move in the beast circles. Grim Barb and Panzer Crucifer. You took the words out of me mouth, a child's dread for a dragon voiced father. Hill cloud encompass us. You mean you lived as milky as the Leitrim Cuard while you learned vlop flop to howl yourself wolf wise. Dib dib do your best. I am dobbing like old boots courteous. The cubs are after me. It zeebs the whole totem pap. Vuk vuk and vuk to them a vuk for Robinson Shield. Sense and sense and gospels the animal jangs again. Sense and gospels the animals jangs again. Find the Fingal Harriers here, hell me wise acres till I die of the milkman's lupus. What Wolfgang? Whoa, talk very slow.
Hail him, heathen, heal him, holy stone, courser, recourser, change child, eld as Endor earth. A catalytic mythophilic was this totem fulcrum est ancestors you'd hauled and dies irium where no spider webbeth or anon modi iribods plied and skiff straight. Be fair, Chris. Dream. On a known day I sleep. I dreamt of a someday, of a wonder I shall wake. Ah, may he have now of her fear-filled me. Sin-flowered, oh sin-flowered, fie, befugt Christ. I have your tryst tick now. It recurs in 3 times the same differently. There is such a fooey story which obtains of him. Coming noun from the asphalt to the concrete, from the human history brute, Finson, Finian, Oshia cleaved to the same vulgarized Hilser from yours, Mr. Tupling torn of morning the heights with his lavish flow and his rambling undergords. Would he reoccur ad horum as old Romeo Rogers in city or country, and your sub or and your sure ob or by with or from an orb of your known the differenticaibus as branch bard and apaharamasa Syria. We speak to Gun, the father, and live and end the locative bap, or Tad, Helling Babu, whom certain orbits ascertant re hume place of Chisavitus E. Smithwick, Rhonda, Claydon, Salem, Mass, Childers, Argos, and Douthless. Well, I am advised he might, in a sense, be both. Nevertheless, every a man like myself suffix it to say Abramasks and Brookbear. By him it was done Bapka, by me it was gone into, to whom it will bublive, mushame. I am afraid you could not heave a whore, one or your own old stepstones, barn, over a stumbling down wall in the Huddlestown to this classic Nocturber night, but it and they would binge much as vicious off the Doss house back to the race rider and the tuta flesh collars, either handicapped on her flat or barely repeating himself. That is a tip Tim oldie for her. Now the man I go in fear of, Tommy Terracotta, and he and he could be all your and my das and Bordar of the founder of the father of the finder of the finder of the funder of the funnest man and Ranelai. Foy, Pitress and Violet Ice. I am Yam, as me and Tam Tower used a Jagger Pemner into over the house of Eddie's Christy, meaning dog the father, dog son, and coup, and spirindirius sanction. Breathe softly. Arus howls his non. Me das has or orlis. Piercy. White I Lucius and muddy horse broth. Pig Perseriley. But where do we go off? Chisler, yeah. Halt still, Lucas in Dublin. Vulva. McDougal, Atlantic City, or on his onograss that is Chum and Coffin? I would go near identifying you from the Stavrotides, Jong O Maho, and the Wesleyers round your Yokohata, and the O Molachonry Plutcher you have from the worst curse of Ireland, Glorlord of the Magdwag Grup, is no use to you either. Johnny, my donkey shot. Number 4, fix up your spread eagle and pull your weight. Who sent whom to our regionals hen and the gander or Haydn? Would you keen a young step schuler of physical choreography, the name of Kevin, or let outers pray, Evan Vaughn, or his post horn in the high streets that was shooting as Gaini Gagag Paula Pinter that found the Dogamin number 1. I would suggest an ineligible downfund by an uneligible. If I do know scented Sagnesses, sometimes he would keep silent for a few minutes as if in prayer and clasp his forehead, and during this time he would be thinking to himself, and he would not mind anybody who would be talking to him or crying stinking fish. But I no way need you, stroke oar, nor your quick handles. You are too far a cock in the north there. Maddie Armagh, and you're due south so. South, I see. You're up in Leo Ulster, and I'm free down in Asia. This is much better. He is cured by faith who is sick of fate. The Prouts who will invent a writing there ultimately is the poeta, still more learned, who discovered the rating there originally. There's That's the point of esterotology. Our book of kills reaches from now and so many counterpoint words. What can't be coded can be decoded if an ear eye sees what no eye e'er grieved for. Now the doctrine obtains, we have occasion causing effects and effects occasionally recausing alter effects. Or I will let you take it upon myself to suggest to twist the penman's tail porterwise. The gist is the gist of Sham, but the hand is the hand of Samus. Shan, Shim, Strong. There is a strong suspicion of counterfeit Kevin, and we all remember ye in childhood's reverie. 'Tis the bells of scandal that gave tune to grumbling over him and someone between me and thee. He would preach to the two turkeys and dip all the dindings, this masters in the abbey, and give gold tidings to all there are in the Bronze Age, the antiproressor recitationism to entrust their Easter neappearance to Brossolini's house of hatcraft. He is our scent on the firm. Now, have your reasonably hesitancy in your mind about him after 4 priests read mass, or are you in your post? Tell me that sans dismay. Leap, pard.
Fire rapping, putting years on me. No. This bolt in hand be my worder. I'll see you move farther, blarneying mercant Antonio. What can such wretch to say, or to I, or how have my to doom with him? We were womb full of mischief, and initium wise, ever liking alike, hairy top on heel tipper, albi beckers, unwatchissables, and Ixon am Ixon, that babe in principally, my leopard brethren, the pure and innocence of but 15 primes. You're all in your Calblian eyes so lustriously standing the real school. To be upright as his match, healthiest as his egg, saviour so the salt and good we browed, paralleling butter did I automobile him to a flare inciting hog's fat. Being I his kindergarten, I know not, O Cashla, but I am sure oft habit hand is this undered heaven, my enfants, contrasting the first mover that father I ascend froming knows, as I think caused whom I, herself the sign, came remaining being dwelling heir, Plage and Watford, as to I was altered impostulants possessing my future state, falling towards thrice myself, resting the child hide when I received the habit, following Menzinius, connecting Mesosius, including was verted, embracing a pilgrim, circumcised my hairs, O Lord, and removed my clothes from patriotic motives, meus minimus culpads. Permitting this Ikakun, crouch low, entering humble down, dead through mean scatological past, making so smell partaking myself to confess abiding clean tumble you poning use octopods, mouth speech all no finger force, owning my matsu and tide, before him attaching Audons, prostrating wards mine sore, accompanying my thrain trops, offering my eyesalt, what I, the person whom in I now am, did not do, how he to say essayed anding, how he was making errand and anding, how he all locuty sunt. Why did you, my sect best friend, blabber always you would be so delighted to back me, then erst erident toppling Humphrey hugging nephew, old Bigelout, designing such posts sitting his night office? Annexing then, producing Saint Mamolulius, you snub around enclosing your moving motion, touching the other catechumens, continuing say, providing a pend of signature quoniam, you will celebrand my dearth dags quoniam, conceal the concealer, I am 2 sides uppish, a mock belief insulant, ending none mere hyber Irish. Well, chunk your dimmed chink before Avto Kinnatown, for as much as many have tooken in hand to, I may as well humbly correct that Vespian now in case of temporalities. I've my pockets full come play of your lay-created cardinals, ap rinse, ap rowler, ap rancer, ap rowdy. Improperial! I saved you 4 of the Heckites, and you loosed me hind bland Harry to the bergamot of Ord Dub. I teach it you in fair times, my elders, the WXYZ and PQRS of legatine powers, and you, Albion CR Declan, I learn episcoping me altogether, circumdetitioned me. I brought you from the loops of Lazare, and you have remembered my lapsus langways. Washi wachi watai watatashi. Oira siya shiahor bukyu ji bun. What a cushy lot. Mind of poison is. That time thing think. Honorific remembrance to spit humble makes. My ruri decanal cast is a cut above you, peregrines. Aish boyshu de ruminescu. See the Liebhauer of my generations. Has not my master, Theophrastus Spheroneumaticus, written that the spirit is from the upper circle? I am of the ochlocracy with Christopher Columbus and Porvis Pario, Soa Coa Kerry Telly Percelli Derry Leposet. Oh, look at my jailbrand Exquovis and Sequentius high marked on me, fake similar in the foreign by Papa Gallus and Puppus Magnus. Ahem, Anglici, egg squashfish lean yo nun feed mar curious. Sagart Ken self-lord, Nilobe stent, to Loman's Catholic's patrician morning coat of arms, with my high tripinifery cresta and caudal motams, itch dean, which Gaspy Otto and Sour, he renders echo stay so, addressing eat nor not eat, body yours am. And mine praise Gad is the first praisonal and ego name Yod heard Boise in Moy Bog's Doomsday. Hastan the Vista, or in Alaman, suck at. Suck it yourself, sugar stick. Misha, Yid, think those that were asking to luck at your sore toe or to taste your Gaspy hot and sour. Ichthian, Hegvat tosser, gags be plebsed, between his voice and her coincidence. Thug, Dirk, and Hacker with Rose Lancaster and Blanche York. Are we speechin' Danglass Langdead, or are you spracken die Deutsch? Oi soy, blessy blassy. Where to go is knowing remain. Become quantity that discourse bothersome when what do, knowing remain? Come back, Batty Riley, to bully dames tough. Come him, Buddy Rowley, come with me. What about your threepenny croucher of an old fellow, me boy, through the ages? Tell us, eh? What about Brian's the Vauntan Don Line me, Master Monk, hey? Eh? Spira in me domino, spear me doin. Fat prize the bona fide peach pigeon lover, hey? Esquire Airwugs, Escudado of Jenkins area, with his ivy under his tang and the ho-hallo to his dullophone, before there was a sound in the world. How big was his boost friend and be Shanghai to him? The swabber, the twicer trier fold in Wanstable. Louds curse to him. If you hoard him outily as we harem labyrinthally, from Norning Rice till Nightmail, with his drums and bones and hums and drones, your innereed herdly heard me. Ho, ha, hi, he, hung, sing, sing.
Me no Angli mo, me speaky almonds linglis. Nicey doc, Miss Lou, please. Me no pidgey ludeman saw saying nump to one topside telemassy fella. Me piggy saggy a song, a noodle time, pleasey Mr. Lukey Walkie. Jodasome cowbelly mam. Be a long game, she pull me along, begolla. Jack in the box, be long a gishy, plenty much, boohoo me mo. Hell's cruciform the elements, toot woohooch. Toots never postle cleric. Checking chin chat with nip pun nippers. Halt their sob story. Halt their sob story to your lambad's tale. Are you Roman Catholic? Are you Roman Catholic? 432. Quag me rig yoke, me yoke, triple me tryst, tandem messiah. History as her heart. To 1 year old fro. Your old fro lied. Tantric, Hattrick, Tristan Parton of Velglide. I feel your trill dry mouths over speaking, or Dragoman hands under stadium. Plunger words that paddle verbs, mere man's mime. God has jest, the old order. Channet and last like the first. Every third man has a chink in his conscience, and every other woman has a jape in her mind. Now fix on the little fellow in my eye, Minikins mandrake, and follow my little psycho-synology, poor armour in the sing-slang. Now I, the lord of Tutu, am placing the initial T-square of burial jade upright on your temple a moment. Do you see anything, Templar? I see a black fringe piles through cook. Who is he carrying on in his brain span? A cathedral of love jelly for his theons. How is it like somebody's? Pious, a pious person. What sound of tistress issoles of my ear? I heard around the same. He serpy the ram's head and laid it lightly on your lip a little. What do you feel, lip love? I feel a fine lady floating on a still stream of isinglass. is glass, with gold hair on the bed and white arms on the twinklers. Oh la la. Purely in a pure manner, oh say but swift and still a vain essaying. Throated today, trend tomorrow. I invert the initial of your tripart tri tripartite and sign it sternly and adds a girdle on your breast. What do you hear, breastplate? I hear a hopper I hear of a hopper behind the door slapping his feet in the pool of bran. Bollocks, acting like a bollocks. And so the triptych vision passes out of the hillside into the hillside, freshly fading again, and I'm delicated to the picture cuteness of your images. Now on the wonder urge interpellant, I feel called upon to ask, did it ever occur to you prior to this, by a stretch of your herborally relic imagination, when it's quicker than this quacking, that you might bar accidents, be very largely substituted in potential succession from your next life by a complementary character, voices apart. Up, Jack, I shudder for you, your thought, think. Put from your mind that and take on trust this. The next word depends on your answer. I'm thinking too thug to be think I'm thinking too thug to be thinked. I was just trying to think when I thought I felt a flea. I might have. I cannot say, for it has no significance at all. Once or twice when I was in the old borough with me old foes, Jake Jones and his hand scabby when I tinkled, I were trying on my garden substitute buys apart at my next word neighbours, and maybe more largely nor you cusha you messmate realise a few times so to shape I chanced to be stretching in the shadow and I thought the life right out of myself in my auriculous imagination. I felt feeling a half scotch in a pottage like a rogue my riddle age and like Bewley in the bass, so that I indicate out for myself, and I swear my guts how that I am not myself at all, no jolly fear. And when I realise, believe in myself, how becomingly I am going to become. Oh, is that the way with you, you creator? In the becoming was the weird want not. Who'd make it not for ye? The voice of the voice joke up, I fear. Are you imitating Roman now or Amor now? You have all of our empathies, eh, Mr. Trickpat, if you don't mind, that is, aside from sings and mush and answering to my straight question. God save the monk. I won't mind this answering to your strict cross queets, whereas it would be unethical for me to answer as it would have been nonsensical for you then not have asked. Same, no one can, home no will, gagging I am, gang in mine, and I will return out of the name you call me, Leelander. But it is my shelter you'll miss when Lupac walks backwards and darkest horse in callow suit. You knew me once, but you won't know me twice. I am a simpliciter arduous hours of the shoe, 3 days child, loving and thieving.
My child, know this: some portion of that answer appears to have been tokened by you from the writings of Saint Senedius, that first liar. Let us hear, therefore, as you honor and obey the Queen, whether the indwellingness of that which shame firth be entwined of one or atoned of two. Let us hear art simplicissimus. Dearly beloved brethren, Bruno and Nola, Limon bong holders and stationary life partners off ordinary St. Nessa Street, where explaining it avacadius all round each other ere yesterweek out is of Ibsen and Epenzuch. When him upon Nola Bruno monopolius his ego Bruno most unwillingly seized by the mortal powers Alinea Nola equal to opposite Bruno ipso id est eternally provoking uh, alio opposite equal as provoked as Bruno at being eternally opposed by Nola por omnibus signalo, singolo, singularium, so is he. One might hear in there beyond that lion roar in the air again the zoo home home of felon make a call. Bruin goes to noble ever who is. If is Itzrin, or you mean Nolan's, but Volan's an alibi? Do you mute malice, suffering unegotistically from the singular, but positively enjoying on the plural? Justify of the soul, you breather, remember a blither, thou must lie.
Oh, yes, oh, yes. I never dreamt of being a postman, but I mean an Australian someplace. Malt's deeply doubly dead. Beloved dead. I, Alaboy brother, negoist cabler of this city, whom 'tis better ne'er to name, I said brother, the skip god, expelled for looking at churches from behind, who is exsender of the hollow eve cenograph in prose and worse every All Souls night. High Brazil's Brandon's deferred midden Erse Clare Iang language 0009 Assas doublier and per neuropaths punk. Starving today plays punk opening tomorrow. 2 plays punk wire splosh. How 2 plays punk cabler. Have you forgotten poor Albie Sobrinos, Jeff, you blighter, identifiable by the necessary white patch on his rear? How he went to his Swilter's land after his lungs, my sad late brother, before his coglional expansion. Won't you join me in a small Hail Mary, a bottle of the best for well-met Kapler, United Irishmen? What though preferring the stranger, the coughs and the itches and the minis and the ratties, the opulos and bilgenses? For of his was the patriots mistaken, the heart that wast our Graw McGree. Yet there be some who mourn him, concluding him dead, and more there be that wait a stand. His future's up the stairs, and the ladgers in his hairs, he ought to win that VVC Vulgraps for an end-upper, half muxy on his hole. Would he were... Would he were even among the lost, from ours bereft beyond belongs. Oramus poor fraternibus, that he may yet escape the gallows and still remain ours faithfully departed. I wronged you. I never want to see more of bad men, but I want to learn from any on the Erse, like Tass, and much thanks. Here's ditto if he lives same place in the antipathies of Austrasia, or anywhere with my fongest on his hoosh money, safe and damned, or he has hopped it, or who can throw any lime on the Sopjack, my fond foster, Obit Nolan, the workings, New South Wales, his condition off the venerable Jerry built, not belonging to these parts, who, I remember ham to me, when we were like bro and sist over our castor and porridge, with his Roman, I suppose, expecting for a Clarence Negus, a teetotum abstainer. He feels he ought to be as ashamed of me as me to be as shunned of him. We were in one class of age like to 2 clots of egg. I am most beholding to him, my namesake, as we said it in our Meharican through the doubly telewisher. Out past hearts wag short peritymes, worn down shoes upon his feet, to whose redress no tongue can tell. In his hands a boot. Spare me, do, a copper or 2, and happy I'll hope you'll be. It will be pleased me behind, with thanks from before, and love to self and all, I remain here your truly friend. I am no scholar, but I love that man who has apricot lops with the moonshine in his profile, my Shem Blabble. My Freer, I call you my half-brother because you, in your soberer oteomic moments, reminded me deeply of my natural Saywen brothel in Feed, Hop and Jollity, S.H. Devitt, that benighted Iris maimed, who is tearly belaboured by Sydney and Albany. As you sing, it's a study. That letter self-penned to one other, that never perfect ever planned? This non-day dairy, this all-night's newsery reel. My dear sir, in this wireless age, any owl rooster can peep up bostoons. But who waxed he so anquished? Was he vectored or victim vexed?
Mighty sure, way for his ritual, a perambulator ram in his bag small when he was reading aloud, with 2 ecolites, and he was failing of the kink in his arts over a sense. Madonna and Teal, idlest, leading a double life, but who for the brilliance of brothers is the Nolan as a parent is nominally. Mr. Mr. Nolan, that's too. Mr. Nolan is pronominally Mr. Gotgab. I get it, but by hearing this thing about a person, one begins to place him for a certain and true. Eureka, he stands pat for you before a direct object in the feminine. I see by maiden's name. Now I am earnestly asking you and putting it to you between this you and whom and you who. Will you just search through your Gabbitt memoirs for all of the 2 minutes for this impersonating pro Nolan for a head of foul shoulders? Would it be in twofold truth and untaken Miss Patriarch to fulfill it through? And really a Dublin ganger, much about your own medium with a sandy whiskers. Poke me nabs in the ribs and pick me earthworms out of your mouth. Travels through holy baggage street, formerly swords meet, who I surpassed them lately for 4 and 6, bringing home the Christmas as heavy as music, hand to eyes on the pier for the Noel's arch. In blessed Foster's place and doing a dirty on me with his tantrums and all his God-forgiven kilowatts. I'd be better off without him. She's right to him. She's left by me. Jenny Rivedi Viva, toot deader view. Mr. Newbrook, toot better for you, Mr. and all. This is the way we of the retter day morning when your countryman from to work Kitty Tay is looking for writing that is not good sign, not. I speak truly, it's a shower sign that it's not. Oh, that's a truer. It's a truer sign that it's not. What though for a sow in his heart, even if you were a good pool pagan? If she ate your windowsill, if she ate your windowsill, you wouldn't say so. Would you be? Would you be surprised after that? My asking, have you a boss bully with a whistle in his tail to scare other birds? I would. Were you with the Cindy and Sandy attending Goliath a bull? You'd make me a sag what you like. I was attending a funeral simply and samply. They are two wise of a soul bling of our siblings, and boot croon the same team. Took bag and baguts when a crispin socialist besoops juts camps and clapper claws and Irving guys off the docks. A look change, I see. Thinking young through and middleage thinking young through the middleage spread and moral fat is mental leans on. We can cop that with our strats that is called corkscrewing. It would be the finest boulevard billy of a mile. For a mile in every direction from Lismore to Cape Brendan Patrick's. If they took the bint out of the middle of it, you you told of a tryst to a two. I wouldn't know without releasing skeetlets of the alcove, tortoise of rabs have I heard mention of whose name anywhere, Malalane or Damask. Strike us strike us up either end. Have you heard of Van Humper of Ambelt Fraser Kane? Marak. He dropped his directs on his Mansian house, Parak, and he had to borrow the wat across Sharaklatz off to Arak. Rodri Branons Brummel and Lily Pets on the lay. Being again a begummins again, from the Sallies to the alleys through their central power. Pierce, quick.
Oh, Tara's thrush, the share pusher, and he said he was only taking the average grass temperature on a Thursday. The the blutchy Skagler, who the muscle man, his muscle mum, and missile ma'am, Mayomi, Mamie, my mo mum. He loves the dreary lane. Philistaciousness to daft Mr. Hairwigger, who has just had twinned little curls. He was resting between Horicus's sheets, wailing for white warfare. Goodness gracious. Poor boy. Poor boy watched Brenton and unbiased by the embarrassment of disposal, but the first walking day by thunder. He stepped into the breach and put on his recreation trousers and riding apron and Baltic bygrad, the old soggy, was when the bold bias of Iran wouldn't join up. Oh, how voice you that? Nice sandy man, not large, good man is he, sandy nice. Ask him this 1 minute up throw inner lotus of his burly ear womit. He dropped his bass up to P flat, and for that he was a la laughed, and then baited, and the whole gamut. Luna seed, Madara died, mad wake mira hira colost. Judasic kissed. Para ask v mia said. Lura dogged. And Needle fall scarce died.
Dias Domnus, Dol de Dolthood, and Annie de Little, his Daintree diva, in Deltic dualites, singing him henpeck roosish through the bars. My Wallace's wild as the Krasnian sea. Grabash hag, Groogie, scoop and I'll cure ye. Mother of emeralds are a poog neighbours. Capilla, Rubrilla, and Malcolm Miller. Dorby, without delay. Well, I beg to reverse same above statement by Saxy looters in their back hall of Kolkata, what reflects upon my administrance of slow poisoning as my dear Devere, revered main here, was confined to guardroom, my Hindu stand, by my pint of his filtered Pilsen's bottle due to a Xenophia Holwell, H and JCS, which I was bringing up my qui parapoticaries orders in my Sedone chair with my mudface packet from my cash chemist and family drugger, Surig of Dowling, VS, to our oral surgeon, Alfamado Hair Doctor Ahmed Burumbarad, MACA, Sahib, of a 1001 Ombrilla Street, Syringa Padam, Allipulli, to see what was my water good, my messical wassagus, for repairs though done by Bulworm in the rear of Pilch Knickers, 7 yards to his galland har pole on perch, together with his, for me, unfillable slopper, property of my deeply forfair reverberated, who is costing us most fortunes, which I am writing in me petition to Kavanagh General, when he was sitting him humpbacked in dry, filthy heat to his Trinidad's pinslers at their orpentings, entailing a laxative tendency to marry, especially with him being forbidden fruit and certified by his sexual clergy to have as basdami emotional volvula, with a basketful of priestess crossing the Singorges to anoint him with tummy moors maladies, and thereafter liable to succumb when served with letters, potent below the belch if my rupee pure reputed husbandship HRR took a brief one in his shirt sales out of that alleged given mineral, telling me see his in Foreignistan Sambat papers Sunday features of a welcome aperitif with a valid of Errol Piercy. Oh, he never batted one eagles before, paying me his duty on my anniversary to the Paratise list in my nil ensemble, in his lazy chair, but he hid it up my hammer faces, all my Mayav rannies, and he locked plumb into my mirror mouth like Yisamacy morning in the end of time, with so lights hope on his ruddy cheeks and raw jaws, and my charmer, whom I dipped my hand in, he simply showed me his propendiculous load poker.
No. Okay.
He simply showed me his propendiculous load poker, sea serpents hisses sissitones, which was as then is produced in his mansway by this wisest of the Vikramadityiationists, with the Remure remark in his Gulugharutti, Uran for parasites with rum for the turkey cockers, so Lithia MD as this is for snooker bought. Which was said by Wem to whom? It wham, but whim I can't wamumba. Fantasy on fantasy, amnes fantasies. And there is nihil nuda under the clothing moon. When Ota we wore wifical of Torquel's bumps her dumpsy diddle down in her wool sark, she mowed our huty-luty girlery of peerlesses to set up in all their bombosities of feudal fiety, fan-flounced and frangipanned, while the mastab whereby Ephialtes has exceeded is the measure simplex mendacius, by which our Autus cuts his thrush. Arc away now. Yerds and nudes say eyes and nodes. Vide! Vide!
Let even be member of Gates of Gold for the faithless sons berater, Iris or Isis, be thy mouth given unto thee, for why do we lack a link a look to pies a point of prefect peace? On the vignetto of the rage and the goose, the overseer of the house of the overseer of the seas, Newman triumphant, saith, fly as the hawk, cry the corncrake, and he latched the postern as thy name shout. My heart, my mother, my heart, my coming forth of darkness, they know not my heart, O Coloom dearest, mon gloomery, mon glamouroo, what a surprise, dear Mr. Preacher. I to hear from you your strong numisal modesty. Yes, there was that skew arch Crum Street home, floodlit up above the flabber ghosted farnament and bump where the camel got the needle. Talk about iridescences, ruby and beryl and chrysolite, jade, sapphire, jasper and lazul, orca, bellon and heaven cry at earth call Ethnos extinct, your volcanology of the lava moltens. It's you, not me's, and the erupting heckler of Finnicus being visible above the Trizon molecula occluded by Saturn serpent ring system and the Poisilineous nova Ardness and Prisca Partenopea Araboni's feature in the northern sky, ere Mars and Mercury surgeons below the rim of the zenith part, while the Arcturnera and Tolia, Hesper and Mesmebria weep in their mansions over the north has south west, a pep and Act, holy snakes chase me, Charlie. Eve has got barley under her fluencies. The oral, the oral mouthing's on the move, and he'll quivy her with a strombolo. Waddleworth the bag of toes, broad as above as below. Creeping through the lion grass, and bull rushes us, and Bensadine before the effing and the Moira's class, and Bill Shatter's shot shift right in academy camouflage as a blancmange and a maple shroop. Obsians is their sit-ins as its felicity of a zorp. Her streak to slave is dick to Dave, and the fat of the land, Goigus, the treadmill, the treadmill pebble dropper, half a head overgrown, and she'd chit chats on her spank and be bonatroy, Alapalooza, up the slanger. 3 cheers and a heave for the name Dan McGraw. The giant sun is in his eminence, but which is the chief of those white dwarfies of which he's ever so abandoned? And do you think I might have been given his 7th? He will kissel me on the melba. And what about his age, says you? What about it, says I? I will confess to his sins and blush me further. I would miss the mean to rebuke the labels of snaps from the flesh shambles and the cannonals. Cyanamide is good for them. 2 over 30s and sure. 2 over 30s in the shower shites. In the shower shites. She's ass part of the Nile Lodge and the kitchen canny at the Mrs. Hazamun's. Will you warn your old husband barking at the beggar man his choke full chewing his chain? Responsive view plays. They said Sully a Berwicker, associated with thinkers, the black hand, shovelly wands, wanter of anonymous letters, and scurrilous ballads in Parsi French, whose McGad's token smells cheaply of power's spirits, like a deep-sea dibbler, and is not fit enough to throw guts to down to a bar. Stifling me. Stifling me when he is a maid, not a maid, when he would not any past length for her. So long, Sullyman. If they cut his nose off on the stitcher, they had given 7 good reasons. Here's the leg lift of my snuff and trout stocketed and handkerchief, orange fin with mosaic of dispensations and foreign black patata from the church milliner. When Lynch brother, with Burgess friends and company with T.C. King and the Warden of Galway, is prepared to stretch him and scared at the powers of the starlight. L.B.W. Hemp hooray, says the captain in the moonlight. I could put him under my pally ass, slept on him in all nights, and I would roll myself for holy poly over his burrowing places. How will we make laugh over him together, me and Riley in the vicar's bed? Quink, says I. He calls to me, Granny Stream, Auburn, when I'm hiding under me hair from him and I cool him in me when I cool him in me finnigans. He's so giant on the bounder. Plunk, he said, inasmuch as I am delighted to be able to state with a joy of lifting in my 40 winkers that a handsome sovereign was really pledged in their in their penance in the sluts machine, along with the cherry wicker wishing brack of Mary fruit under shadow la rose, to both the legitimate lady performers of display unquestionable Elspeth and Marietta Gunn and H2O, with the noblest ladies and the Saxon tannery with motto of Walsh's French Latin. O'Neill saw Queen's Molly's pants and much admired engravings mean and complete manly parts during alleged recent act of her chief Mergy magistrate 5 inches above the kneecap, as he required by statute VIC 56. If you won't release me, stop to please the leg of me now, you see. Respect SVP St. Vincent, SVP, your wife, and man.
You wish to take us, Fru Maria, by degrees as artius lateranium qua patrona, but I am afraid, my poor woman, of that same name. What with your Sylvains and Salavines, you are misled. Alas, for living pledgeries. Lordy Daw and Lady Don, Uncle Fozel and Auntie Jack. Sure, that old humbuggers was boycotted and girl-cutted in debt and doom on hill and haven, even by the show the flag flotilla, and I'm giving down to understand inscribe and all the gratuitous of and conspewed and the take your hands away, Bumpty Tumpty, sought on a wall, mute art for the million. There wasn't an archimandrite of Danes Island in the townlands, nor meats from the Isle of Woman, nor one of the four cantons, nor any on the whole wheel of this inseminal consolabulum, nor nogent igen mide, and all the whole scruffus of the Jorth would come next or nigh him, Mr. Ale Whipper, seed and nursery man, or his Algus Bummaglorer, Auxilium meum solo domino. I'm sad. For rhyme or ration from piles or faces after that. All ears did wag. Old ear wake as Piers Orell was flabbergasted. Recount. I have it here to my fingers' ends. This liggity-piggity wanted to go to the jam pot. And this leggity-peggity spelt pea. And these lucky puckers played at pooping Tulatum. Mazda, Dasma, Madas, Sodom. Sure.
TJ, I think you got the worst text to be reading. It's like so convoluted.
I'm like, what's happening?
I actually don't know what's actually happening in that. I felt I was in a horse race, and then I was on a boat, and then someone was fighting.
There was so much happening, yes.
And then it was a planet. That's gymnastics, though, isn't it? Like,
it is.
I think you're muted.
Yeah, Toby, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Back in the room.
There we go. Back in the room. I had muted myself and I was chatting away to myself.
Well, we
Wow,
were just over here talking about how much I struggled. I will
no,
say.
no. There's no struggles. I really think that Joyce is would be very happy with some of the new pronunciations and the new interpretations. So, but look, yeah, that was the first part of chapter 3, Free from Finnegan's Wake, and a real delight to hear it. How are you feeling, Sarah?
I feel
After all
like
of that,
my tongue is too fat for my mouth and my mind is going too quickly because I don't know what I was saying.
oh,
But
but
it's so funny.
it was so interesting to hear it in the correct accent and cadence.
Yeah, at one point in time, I was like, "This is what it's supposed to be." Thank you so much.
I can like it's so funny, but even trying to read it, like if you were grammatically correct with reading it, it's just all over the place.
Yeah, I loved watching you discover what he was punning on every now and then. You'd hit it, and then you'd stop and you'd
Yeah.
have that realization. Which I think the accent really being able to you're tripping your way through it. It was fantastic. And I will say that is the first time in the history of our Wake podcast where someone has finished their readings and celebrated with a Guinness.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't want to crack it
Sarah
on as
immediately
well on
poured
the
herself a
audio. It
Guinness.
was like Father Ted.
So,
Pint man.
so yes, so pint of your Arthurs has showed up in the in
Pint of pint.
in the which is surprising. Maybe we should be drinking while we do this. Maybe that would fix it. But
I mean, he showed his load poker.
Yeah.
I was like,
These
what?
Yeah, although being able to say to someone that they're not fit enough to throw guts down to a bear
It's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those phrases where you go, I'm not really sure what that means, but it sounds really, it's very decorative.
If she ate your windowsill, you wouldn't say so.
Yeah, and then Sarah, you were saying before we started recording that your Ulysses reading group would be have a thing or two to say about you going over to the dark side to
just
Finnegan's Wake.
It's either seen as just a book of nonsense that he's either lost his mind or like was it a big joke, or why would you want to do it? Once you've kind of cracked Ulysses, it's like, why would you dedicate so much time to Finnegan's Wake? Because Ulysses in itself it's massive. It's a huge undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally had cracked it, but I had pretty much an academic approach. I was reading Shakespeare, I was listening, I was looking. Then there's I suppose the Iliad and Homer all in the background, and you're trying to mesh that up. And it's such a simple story, and
Mm-hmm.
to get to the crux of it. But then it's probably very Irish as well, so we circumvent. We're not direct, and if somebody is direct, they go, Jesus, he's German or something, he's very straight, we're afraid of it, and we go in circles. We never get to the point of what we're saying. There's lots of parables and references, like, sure, how's she cutting, and are you doing well? Go away, come here to me. What's happening? And that's nothing. Like, I have said nothing there,
Right. Yeah, which, I mean, says a lot to what Joyce is doing here, which is really circling ideas and circling back again and really digging deep and giving so much meaning to a single thing. And we've spoken to our friend Neil several times on the podcast, and he was the first one to object when we first said that this was an unreadable book, because he said, no, it's the opposite. This is the most readable book ever written, because there's so much you can read out of every line, and you can dig down and down and down and down and still never get there, or find meanings that Joyce didn't intend, or have all these different kinds of puns and different languages and different kinds of stories that he's working through.
It's hilarious. I don't think it really does need to be read out loud to give it life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're reading that in your head, you'd bounce it off the wall. You'd be like, oh, here, it's too much of a chore.
Right. I will say this, though. While y'all were discussing just now, Toby, I added another moniker in my contacts for you. You are now Sugar Stick. I'm sorry.
Sugar Stick.
Suck it
Well-
yourself, sugar stick is probably the best line in the book so far.
Yeah.
Suck it yourself, sugar stick. Yeah, that's.
So-
I did circle that. That will probably be the Instagram post when this episode comes out.
Shuck it
Then,
yourself.
like on page 491, when you have your Aaron de Van Humper or Emerald Teresa Kane, where's me? My granny's name's just plunked in there as well. And we're like, oh, famous.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a lot of stuff that you would get that we don't get. A lot of there were certain kinds of turns of phrase that what I loved was when you hit something that tickled you, you allowed yourself to really laugh at it and come back to it. And sometimes they would be like, oh, okay, I think this is a specific reference that maybe we would have skipped past.
Or how things are pronounced as well, like crater and chiseler, and
Yeah,
I think that it's read literally, and it needs that lilt.
it does.
It's not a guttural thing, but it's how your tongue is pressed against your teeth to get it out.
Right.
It's a forceful read. Like it's how many calories can you burn?
Oh, all of them.
So how did you find the difference between reading and listening today? Like when you weren't on the book?
It's very hard to understand and follow when you're listening to it. I think it does need an accent as well, and like I have a Dublin accent, but I'm probably leaning into like a West Coast accent or the south of Ireland, because Joyce his father was from Cork, and there is one recording of Joyce reading an Olivia Plurable, and you would expect him to kind of have an I suppose an ambiguous type of accent that's a mishmash of European, but he held a Cork upper class accent. So yeah, I can see why it would be geared towards like southwest coast of Ireland.
And it's a really interesting thing to, like you mentioned earlier, that Joyce was an exile, that he exiled himself 25 years before he died, longer. And so his depiction of the linguistics here is a memory, is that he's depicting a people who he hadn't been around for so long. And so it's that interesting idea that he is using his memory of his father's accent and the accent of the people.
Nora Barnacle and
but he wasn't hearing it every day anymore because he was in Switzerland or Paris or Trieste.
That also, but I suppose he was a big fan of the telephone as well. So he couldn't get him off it. So when he was in touch with Harriet Weaver, or we had a bit of a falling out with Sylvia Beach, but I think he would he was still in touch with something. Now, telephone in Ireland at the time would have been mighty, I don't think there were many around.
True, but it is an interesting thing for someone to have gone for so long, but to retain their identity so stringently. And him being gone for so long and feeling betrayed by Ireland, it wouldn't have been surprised if he had said, I'm never speaking English again, I'm only going to speak French or something. But he really maintained his Irishness up to the end. It's like, I've been in Canada for 25 years, but people often say, well, your accent hasn't changed at all, because I've gone out of my way to maintain my accent. I think that's something that is a choice, and it's interesting that Joyce is writing in that accent and writing the accent in that makes it kind of necessary to understand it, like a little skeleton key.
Yeah, and I suppose for all of his anger, it's probably a kindness as well to, maybe it's a forgiveness also. But I think he did love Ireland. But in some sense, he was a big Parliament.
Well, I think
his father was.
I think his problem is that he didn't feel like Ireland loved him back.
Yes. Sure, we couldn't. At the times as well, we couldn't. Sure, we didn't know who he was as well. He would have been very upper class, and no one would have had access to what he was learning. But I would love to see him go full stretch now on ChatGPT or something and have an argument with it.
Yeah.
Have a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if David Foster Wallace is a parallel to Joyce. I mean, maybe not, but a similar kind of thing where when he was alive, he was fairly misunderstood, and it's only been since he died that people have really sort of taken him a lot more seriously, or at least treated him in that way. But Foster Wallace is a lot more penetrable, at least.
I think as well. Like, let's just be honest about it. If he was knocking around today, we'd be trying to put a label on him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sure.
With some sort of, like, we'd be saying he's neurospicy, something, trying to categorize.
Yeah.
But I think we're only really understanding him now.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, I mean, understanding isn't really a big part of the wake. I mean, we generally tend to go back to the Oxford World Classic summaries for this section, and there's a lot in here about what just happened in the section. I'll just go through it really quickly, just see if we got a sense of what is going on in this section, and I'll follow the page and line numberings conventions that are standard for this text. So we just read the first part of Book 3, Chapter 3, which is page 474 to 496. The chapter is called Yawn, an inquiry run as a seance by Senators 4 into the various events so far narrated, especially the Humphrey out of Book 1, chapters 2-4. Sean, now Yawn, is the star witness, ventriloquizing or channeling the chapter characters who appear one by one, with HCE as a philanthropic urban planner dominating the last 20 pages. So from 474 to 477.2, the four, Matthew Gregory, Marcus Lyons, Lucas Metcalf, Johnny Nahosaline, and an ass in tow, approach their quarry. 477.3 to 480.36, proceedings begin with Yawn questioned as he half wakes from mixed dreams, amorous and nightmarish, of a female typist and of wolves reflecting elements of Tristan and St. Patrick. Matthew tries to establish facts about Yawn's origin, his language, and a boat without much luck. Then, from 481 to 483.14, he follows up clues about HCE. Yawn responds, addressing Johnny, questions about Kevin and the letter he found. 483.16 to 485.27, Yawn speaks disparagingly of his twin Shem and dismisses the four. One of the senators turn on him. 485.28 to 487.34, Yawn breaks out in Chinese pidgin. Another attempts to channel visions through him. Another questions him like a psychoanalyst. Yawn's answers take them nowhere. 487.35 to 491.25, questions are asked about duality and doppelgangers, and there's more on Shem and one Stouter, or HCE. 491.26 to 492.7, how HCE was caught defecating in the park. Is that why he was laughed at? 7 manic laughs. 492.8 to 496.22, ALP appears to reply to this defamation of HCE before disabuse her and change the subject to HCE. So we stopped right in the middle of the action. But it's kind of nice that we're going back over old ground, particularly for TJ and I, we've been living with this text for the last few months, to hear all of these stories that made up most of Book 1 reconsidered.
Yeah, don't poop outside. Just don't poop outside.
Yeah. Should be a book written about you. At least that would be an understanding message. Like, were you getting a slagging because you had a shit in the park a couple of years ago?
So all of these locations they talk about, Phoenix Park and I mean, these are all familiar to you, obviously, as a Dubliner.
Dublin is small. There's only a river between it.
Right, and then there's the Napoleon, or there's the
towers, the Martello Towers.
Right. So you've got all of these. So all of these references are much more familiar to you as an Irish person than to us. And so I guess the scandal of this, what Dublin now is a small city, back then it was even smaller. And so the scandal of this publican who has been caught in the park leering at girls and shitting in the woods and all this stuff. I mean,
it's probably, it still happens. Like, there's nothing that's changed, probably.
Right. And so much of this is the gossip and the way that people are talking back and forth, and the way that people are judged and families are made up, and it's sort of easy to see how this, when you expand it out, really does take in all of human experience.
Everything,
in so many different kinds of ways.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm still kind of stuck on him pooping in a park, but
But like Joyce did have a fascination with
He did.
defecation and his lovely fart letters that he'd written.
Yes, and there's there's big sections of Ulysses set in toilets.
in the Jakes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting. But it's again, I found it a fairly readable chapter. I found it fairly. I mean, you can hear the voices, you can hear the different kinds of things. It's one of those ones where I kind of I was going to say regretted, but that's not the point of this podcast. But what this chapter could have been with a bit of rehearsal, where you understand who each character is, and the different voices of these four: Matthew, Marcus, Lucas, and Johnny, or obviously Mama Lujo, that he talks about. But if it was performed, it could be. It's very, very funny and very, very full of character and full of personality.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually thought about the way that in the past that we've separated some of the separated stuff between the two of us as dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that it almost feels like the type of preparations that we would have had to do for night lessons to be like, who's talking to where, and
yeah, and there could have been a way of differentiating between the voices of some, but again, that's not what this podcast is. There are other recordings like you talked about before, Sarah, that do those kinds of things. That's not what we're here for. We're here just to hear it out loud. And
in the park and giggled.
Yeah, and we all laughed a dozen times during that chunk, even if we didn't exactly understand what was being said. So that's kind of the purpose of why we're doing this, I think.
God bless him.
And now we're nearly 500 pages in. Whoever would have guessed?
Not I.
It's crazy. Yeah. So it's so good to hear about the perspectives on Bloomsday in Dublin. It's one of those things that we don't get over here in the same way. I think Bloomsday is celebrated by very niche groups, and it's usually expat Irish who will gather in a pub or in a hall somewhere and would read a little bit of Portrait of the Artist and call it a day and go to the pub. But hearing about the festivities in Dublin sounds something really quite special.
It's insane, and it's kind of like peeling back the floorboards, and the more you look underneath, like what's happening, there's plays going on, there's spoken word, there's art installations, churches, you can go to graveyards and they're doing recitals. It's really kind of like it's its own Bible nearly, like if you look at Tolkien, he didn't want anyone kind of speaking Elvish and having these groups all together rehashing things and scenarios and building worlds around it. But I don't know, I think Joyce would be having a great time going, or maybe it'd be Jim Nola Joyce as well going, that's not the way that was supposed to be done. You would wonder as well how pedantic that he would be about it. But Bloomsday it's very special as well. Just you get the good weather for it, and it's good crack. Mm-hmm. And then you go, there's a sense of bereavement as well because you finished it, and then you go, sure, I'll start it again. I'll run at it again, and I might learn something else or discover something else, like something going off course. You can fall down a pothole with it and send you off somewhere reading, and then you'll come back. And like, for example, this year I had read Wuthering Heights, and I was like, what's going on here, lads? Like, what is going on? I'm not that stupid. Like, how many Catherines are there? But I then reading like really, really long text like Tolstoy, War and Peace, and then Crime and Punishment, and like, Jesus, they're just long books with loads of words in them. There's emotional depth, but I think Joyce has gotten really, really deep into the psyche of people and how we behave. There's not a whole lot that has changed about us. We are probably not smarter, we're less smelly and still very cruel, and he exposes that. But it's like being parallel with yourself and living with your past, and you're in the present, and he jumps like nostalgic values between hopping into places and who you smells, music, locations. Yeah, it is. It's great. You just have to get over for Bloomsday.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Just having such a cultural celebration based around a writer who had very little interest in being popular and embraced by casual readers. I mean, you really have to invest in Joyce to find it. Like you said, you took you 18 tries to read it the first time, but it's rewarded the labour.
Yeah, and poor Carl here is just like, oh Jesus, when's she gonna go off on one? You know, like we've gone over to Paris and we'd be sitting outside Shakespeare and Co, and then I'd go on an absolute tangent, like, and this is not, and you go, oh, for fuck's sake. It's like, oh no, that fella again. Like one in particular was we had gone on like a Dublin boat cruise, like around the bay here. We travelled by Dart, which is like the railway line up to Howth, and we got a boat back into Dunleary Harbour. And as we were passing, you know, I don't know, it's not going to say the driver, your man steering the ship, the boat,
right?
The captain, Captain Birdseye, and he said, you know, like if you look up to the right over here, you have Bray Head, and this is where Leopold Bloom had proposed to Molly Bloom. And Carl just went, oh, for fuck's sake. You know, like, oh, like,
I can't escape it.
Can't get away from him. It's just everywhere. But it's everywhere. Like, if you go, like, Trieste is on the card, like, you want to go to Zurich, and, you know, just unfortunately, Carl will be going with me.
So he's not a fan. He's not
I think now secretly, you know, like he might use it as like a get out card, you know. Oh, Sarah's going to a lecture this evening, so you know, I won't be able to go for a pint. So he gets like blamed on an awful lot of things, Joyce, and then you know, when it suits him, it'll work. But I think he might be a secret fan. He probably knows more than me, just listening to it as well.
Yeah, well, it's that kind of absorption that where just hearing it is the key, and the fact that it requires rereading you can't really get it on the first go. TJ and I have both read Ulysses once, and throughout this whole process, we've come back to going, oh, we need to read that again, because having gone at Finnegan's Wake and realizing that really Ulysses is much more accessible than this.
Oh yeah.
It's making me really excited about the next read of Ulysses.
I think it's like as a school of Joyce, as how he's setting you up. Like if you're reading Portrait of an Artist and Dubliners and then Ulysses, this is why I think this is funny. I know. Like I suppose knowing how he writes or what he's putting out on page and language. Before, no, that would have been, you know, would have went in the bin somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to start with Finnegan's Wake in a career, because you're not going to get to write very much more. It's the way to end. But well, this has been great to have you. We don't want to keep you because you're many hours ahead of us in the evening. I don't want to take up your whole evening, but we're thrilled to have had you along and to hear the correct intonation for Finnegan's Wake. It's really setting the bar for us. And what I was saying to TJ last month, I was saying we've done everything, but we haven't had an Irish person on. We got to get an Irish person on. So you've really scratched that itch of going, okay, now we feel authentic. Now we've
deadly. I'm gonna have a Spotify party in work and we'll play it and yeehaw.
Well, that is all the time we have this week for Wake. We will return next week for the next section of what looks like will be another monumental chapter. I've been Toby Malone, joined as ever by TJ Young. A massive thanks to Sarah Kane for bringing her authentic Irishness to the table with us. I hope your reading group will forgive us for helping you stray briefly away from Ulysses.
And Gura Mahaga from Slánaválja.
Exactly. Couldn't have said any better than that myself. We'll see you next week, crack addicts. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegan's Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Perso Riley, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegan's Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegan's Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.